So today I'm going to be solving two questions on cumulative frequency curve, number 3 and number 5. So I'm going to read out number 3. The marks scored by 120 students in a mathematics test as recorded below. Marks in percent, 10 to 19. The frequency, which means the amount of time these marks showed, is 23 times. Now the next mark, 20 to 29 marks, mark 20 to 29, meaning 20, 21, 22, straight to 29. The number of times they occurred are 19 times. Then 30 to 39, number of times they occurred 6 times, all the way to 80 to 89. Now, A says we should prepare a cumulative frequency table and use it to draw the O-give for the data. B says use your graph to estimate the I, lower quartile, II, the 70th percentile. C says find the pass mark if 30 candidates passed. So first we are going to deal with this question first before moving on to the second question. So we are going to be making use of a graph sheet. So I'm going to be making use of this page, this note, and the graph right behind it. But I advise you that if you're going to be doing this in an exam, you should use the graph and the notes right beside the graph, not the notes behind the graph. That way your examiner won't find it difficult to compare your notes to your graph and mark. But in this video, I'm going to be using the notes behind my graph because I don't want to waste my graph note. So I have ruled a line in between and I'm going to go into the question. For this, remember to have your pen, your pencil, your ruler, and your eraser, your pencil. I'm so sorry for that. So let's go into the question. So A says prepare a cumulative frequency table and use the table to draw the O-give for the data. So we are going to our graph notes. So we are going into our graph notes and we are going to start solving, which is A, let's say 1A. And we are going to name our table cumulative frequency table. In brackets CF. And then we draw a table right here. So I've drawn the table. I ruled 4 lines. So this place would be, because we are dealing with the marks of students, the marks. So we are going to be calling this place class marks. Class marks. Then this place is going to be the frequency. Here will be the cumulative frequency. And here will be the class boundary. Right here, we are going to fill this place up with the marks we were given earlier in the question. The marks we were given. So 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to all the way to 80 to 89. And here we are going to fill it up with the frequency we were given. The frequency we were given. So 23 all the way to 9. While here we are going to work for the cumulative frequency. In order to get the cumulative frequency, cumulative means an addition. So it means like an addition of frequency. And these are the frequencies. So we are going to kind of add. So let's guess that there was 0 frequency first. So 0 plus 23 will give us 23. So this place will still be 23. Then this 23 plus 19. So 23 plus 19 gives 42. And 42 plus 6 gives 48. 48 plus 25 gives 73. 73 plus 15 gives 88. 88 plus 11 gives 99. 99 plus 12 gives 111. 111 plus 9 gives 120. Now, you notice that by the time we added, we somehow got 120. And by the time we had all these frequencies as well, it's going to give us 120. And we should remember that 120 is the number of students in a mathematics test. 120 are the total number of students. So by the time you had the frequency, that's the number of time each of their marks showed up. By the time you had it up together, it should give you the number of students that sat for the test. So that's that. Then we are going to move to the class boundary. Now to get the class boundary, we are going to use, we are going to subtract 0.5 from the lower class marks, and we are going to add 0.5 to the upper class marks. So the lower class marks, this is 10, so we are going to subtract 0.5, which is going to give us 9.5. So 9.5. Then this is 19. We are going to add that 0.5 to it. So it's going to give us 19.5. Then right here, we are going to add, and we're going to subtract from here and add here as well. We're going to do the same all through. Subtract, we get 19.5. 2. This means 2. It doesn't mean minus. It just means 2. So right here, we're going to add 0.5, 29.5. All the way to 79.5 to 89.5. So in plotting our graph, because the A says we should prepare a cumulative frequency using, So we are going to make use of our cumulative frequency values and the value for the lower class boundary in drawing our curve on the graph, in plotting our curve on the graph. So in order to know, we need our scale. So right here, we need our scale. This ought to be the x-axis and y-axis. Now to get our scale, we should remember that the cumulative frequency is going to be on the y-axis, while the class boundary is going to be on the x-axis. So the y-axis is the line that is vertical, while the x-axis is the one that is horizontal, lying down horizontally. So in order to know our scale, we should look at this. We have the highest value here is 120. So we should go to the graph and see what we can use 2 centimeter, because each box of this graph is 2 centimeter. It's 2 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 2 centimeter. So we need to know where we are going to plot our y-axis and where we are going to plot our x-axis. The highest value is 120. So if we start from the tip, we are trying to look at our y-axis. If we start from the tip here and we say this is 0, this is 10. Let's say, okay, 2 centimeter to 10 units. So let's say this is 0, this is 10. This is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. It means that each box will be 2 centimeter representing 10 units, but we can also make each box to be 2 centimeter representing 20 units. That way we don't have to reach the extreme end, so we can kind of start somewhere here. We can make this 0, 10, 20, 30. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We can make this 0 plus 20. This is 20 plus 20, this is 40 plus 20, this is 60 plus 20, this is 80 plus 20, this is 100 plus 20, this is 120. So we can kind of make it that way. And on the x-axis, however, so let's say we are starting from here for the y-axis. On the x-axis, let's still name this 0. And we know that the highest value on the lower class boundary that I mentioned before, the lower class boundary, let's go there. The highest value on the lower class boundary is 79.5. This is the lower class boundary. This is the upper class boundary. So we are making use of the lower class boundary and cumulative frequency to plot our graph, like I said earlier. So the highest value is 79.5 and the lowest value is 9.5. So on the graph, if we are starting here as the origin 0, and let's say this is 9, each box 2 centimeter to 10 units. But in this place, we are going to pretend this is 9.5. Then the next is going to be 19.5, because 9.5 plus 10 is 19.5. 19.5 plus 10 is going to give us 29.5. 29.5 plus 10, 39.5 plus 10, 49.5, 59.5, 69.5, and 79.5, which is our highest value. So we are going to plot our graph using the scale of 2 centimeter, 2 centimeter to 10 units on the x-axis, and 2 centimeter to 20 units on the y-axis. We call it 20 units so that it's going to be easy for us here, which means that there are 10 lines in between. Let's count. Let me zoom in. So let's count. There are 10 lines here. This whole box is a 2 by 2 centimeter. So there are 10 lines. 1, 2, this is the origin. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 lines. Since this is 2 centimeter representing 20 units on the y-axis, this is going to mean that in order to know what value each line holds, is going to mean we are going to divide 20 by 10. And 20 divided by 10 gives us 2, which means that each line is 2. So this is 0. Let's say we're starting from here. This is 0. The next line is 2 plus. To get the next line, we are going to add 2. So 2 plus 2 is going to give us 4. The next line will be 4 plus 2. The next line will be 6 plus 2. The next line 8 plus 2. The next line 10. But instead of calling it 10, we're actually going to say 1. So this is what I actually mean. We are starting from origin 0. So the next line will be 0.2. The next line 0.4. The next line 0.6. Next line 0.8. Next line, instead of 10, we can't say 0.10. So we are going to say 1. So this middle line is going to be 1. Then the next line 1.2. Next line 1.4. 1.6. 1.8. And we can't say 1.10. We are going to say 2. if you can see, I've drawn my line with the use of my pencil. So I'm going to call this place, I'm going to make an arrow here and call it the x-axis. And I'm going to make an arrow here and call it the y-axis. This is my starting point, it's going to be 0. Now I'm going to go on the x-axis and start numbering. So you can number slantily. The lower class boundary is what we are using, and the first number is 9.5. The next 19.5, the next 29.5, next 39.5, next 49.5, next 59.5, next 69.5, and next 79.5, which is last. So I'm kind of numbering slantly. So I'm going to set my graph back. Then on the y-axis, I'm going to number. Remember we said the whole box, which is 2 centimeters, we are using it as 20 units. We're using it as 20 units, meaning each line is 2. So this is it. This is the starting point 0. This is 2. This is 4. This is 6. This is 8. This is 10. So this line here is 10. The middle line is 10. Next 12, 14, 16, 18, then 20. So this line is 20. Then the next line 22, the next line 24, next line 26, next line 28, next line 30. Next line 32, next line 34, 36, 38, 40. So we number 40. And we keep on numbering like that. 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. So we've numbered our graph like that. I really hope you can see this. So we are going to start plotting our graph now. So we are going to, remember I said we are using our cumulative frequency to with our lower class boundary in order to plot the graph. So go back to your where you wrote that down, then look at the first number on the cumulative frequency is 23. So the cumulative frequency, this is the cumulative frequency, the y-axis, and the lower class boundary, this is it, the x-axis. So we can actually use our pen to write that there on the graph. Cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency. And here you are going to write the lower class boundary. Lower class boundary or lower class mark, whichever you wish to write, since we are dealing with marks. So where our cumulative frequency is 23, we search for 23 on the cumulative frequency line. Where it is 23, our lower class boundary will have to be 9.5. So we know this is 9.5 already. We know this is 9.5 already. 9.5. But you see this line on the x-axis, on the cumulative frequency, this place is 20. So we have to count to where 23 will be. We know this is 20 and we know each line is 2. So 20 plus 2, this is 22. To the next line is 24, which means 23 will fall in between this 22 and 24 line. So it should be in between right here. So we can make our X mark right there. We can actually make dotted lines there, in between, make dotted lines down. So that's it, and then you make your X line right there, the middle. Then the next one states that where this cumulative frequency is 42, the lower class boundary is 19.5. So we see this is 19.5 right here. We see this is 19.5 right here, and we know this is 20. But we are going to 42. So we know this is 40. We know this is 40. So the next line is 2. So this is 42, which means this is where they merge, where 42 and 19.5 merge. Make a cross right there. Then the next says 48. So we are going to be counting, this is it. This is 40, so we are going to go towards 48. We know each line is 2. So 40 plus 2, 42, plus 2, 44, plus 2, 46, plus 2, 48. So we're going to start making dotted lines from that 48. From that 48 to where this is 29.5. So this is 29.5. We'll continue making dotted lines and stop where it is 29.5. So this is where it is 29.5. So we're going to make an X cross there and go down. We're going to do that for every other thing. So where it is 73, this is 60. Where it is 73, it is going, the lower class boundary will be 39.5. So this is 60. Where is 39? This is 39.5. So we're going to be counting. This is 60. So 62, 64, 66, 68, 70, 72. This is 74. So 73 falls in between right here. So we're going to make dotted lines. Make sure you're making the dotted lines in between those boxes. In between. Then where it is 88, the lower class boundary is 49.5. This is 49.5. And we are moving towards 88. This is 80. This is 82, 84, 86. This is 88. So we make our dotted line. Then where the cumulative frequency is 99, our lower class boundary is going to be 59.5. This is 59.5. We are going towards 99. So since this is 88, this is 90, this is 90, this is 92, this is 94, 96, this is 98. 99 should be in between 98 and 100. So it's right here. I'm not making the line on 100. I'm making it in between, the box between 98 and 100. Then the next one, where the cumulative frequency is 111, the lower class boundary is 69.5. So this is 69.5. This is 100. This is 102, 104, 106, 108, 110, 111 is in between. Yeah. So we're going to make our dotted lines as well. Sorry, I had to change the light. Then the last one, the cumulative frequency, where the cumulative frequency is 120, the lower class boundary will be 79.5, and this is 79.5. So this is 120. So this is we just have to mark that point. Mark the point 120. So after plotting, this is how my graph looks like. Let me zoom in. Where the lower class boundary is 9.5, the cumulative frequency is 23. This is 20, this is 22, 23, right in between. So where it is 19.5, the cumulative frequency is 42. This is 40, the next line is 42, since each line is 2. So there's something I want to say. If you want to, whatever unit you choose for your 2 centimeter box, in order to know what value each line will be, divide your unit. Let's say what your unit here is not 20. From your starting point, your unit is not 20. Let's say it is 10 instead. So in order to know what each line will be, you divide. Since there are 10 lines we counted it before. There are 10 lines. This is 0, the starting point. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 lines. So you divide, if this were 10, you divide 10 by 10, which will give you 1, which means that the unit of each line will be 1. So it means 1 plus 1 will be 2, 2 plus 1 will be 3, 3, like that, to give you 10. But my unit is 20. You divide 20 by 10 lines, we give you 2, which made us have each value for each line to be 2. So each line is 2, plus 2, 4, plus 2, 6, plus 2, 8, plus 2, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So even if it's 40, just divide 40 by 10 lines to give you 4, which means each line will be 4. The value for each line will be 4. It is the same case for the x-axis as well. Whatever value you have here, by the time you subtract this from this, it will give you 10. So 10 divided by 10 lines will give you what each line will be. So each line will be your answer. I hope that is clear. So this is where our ruler comes into use. I recommend you using the transparent ruler, plastic ruler, not this one. But if you have this, you can use it as well. So we are going to merge the center of each cross we made, the center to the origin, then this center to the next center, then the next center to the next center, and the next center to the next center. We are going to keep merging them like that using a straight line. So let's start from the origin to this first center. So I've drawn mine. Make sure you do not shade and do not press your pencil too much so that your graph won't tear. So just make one straight line, then move to the next. The center to the next center, make a straight line. The center to the next center, make a straight line like that. So let's go on. So you can see I'm making it one by one. That way it's not a total straight line. It's going to follow the curve, the shape, the curve. So I'm going to do the next one. So I am done with it, and this is the curve, the ogive curve. We've done the A, we've drawn our ogive. So the B says we should use our graph to estimate the lower quartile and the 70th percentile. The formula for solving the lower quartile is n divided by 4, where your n refers to your total frequency, the total frequency, which is 120. So we are going to impute 120 here. We have 120 divided by 4, which is going to give us 30. This 30 is actually the 30th